What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Nick 4K video. Today we're checking out a video from Middle Earth Updates, and they're going to be giving us an update on the new Lord of the Rings movie. For those of you who may not know, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is my favorite movies / trilogy of all time. I didn't really like the Hobbit trilogy when it first came out, but I've kind of grown to like it more as time has gone on, but it's still not nearly as good as the originals. So I'm kind of split on how to feel about this specific movie, because while I like that a lot of the original actors are returning, it is still one of those things where it's like, will they mess it up? Let's check it out.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Middle Earth Updates. We've just had a wave of news about the Hunt for Gollum that we're going to break down, with updates from Peter Jackson, Andy Serkis, Viggo Mortensen, and even the CEO of Warner Bros. Himself. And some of the stuff that they've said is pretty remarkable. We're talking multiple new Lord of the Rings movie scripts, hints about the exact timeline for the Hunt for Gollum, and even some whispers of which actors might be returning. And in case you didn't already know, The Hunt for Gollum is a prequel to The Lord of the Rings, set both before and parallel to the events of the Fellowship of the Ring. Think of it as the Rogue One of The Lord of the Rings. The film is directed by Andy Serkis and produced and written by Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, the same creative team behind the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. And speaking of Peter Jackson, we've just learned something new about exactly how he is involved in this project. Even though Peter's always been attached to this project as a producer, some fans were a little worried that he didn't seem to be involved creatively in any other way. But no need to worry. In a recent interview with Josh Wilding, Peter Jackson seemingly confirmed that he is indeed involved in developing the script.
Well, we're developing a script for the Hunt for Gollum, which is a Lord of the Rings connected movie that Andy Serkis, who played Gollum, he'll actually direct the movie, but we're working on the script and producing it. So that's something for next year. Yeah.
And Peter further states he is also involved in the script when speaking to Variety in a very recent interview, saying the following: "We are producing and have been writing The Hunt for Gollum, which Andy Serkis is going to direct next year." So this project,
I think there's a level of Lord of the Rings movies, especially while Peter Jackson's still alive, you have to always have him involved in some way, whether it is just a producer or I'd prefer having him as a creative person on. If he's not the director, at least have him as a creative person on the team. I mean, take a look at The Hobbit. I know he wasn't part of like the beginning of that whole process, and so when he did get involved, it was already kind of, a lot of stuff was already on the table, already made, so he's like, all right, I'll just work with what I have. So that's kind of the issue with The Hobbits. So to have him at the very beginning working alongside Andy Serkis and the rest of the team, smart.
Project is definitely moving forward, and it seems like they have a really good plan for it now. But then he says something rather remarkable that is quite interesting. "We are currently working on 3 different screenplays. I'm at the moment writing 3 different scripts." But just to be clear, he doesn't specifically say that this is for the Lord of the Rings, but we do know that they are planning to make more Lord of the Rings movies. I think the other movies are in very, very early planning stages, and they might actually want to see how the Hunt for Gollum does before they commit to making more movies. But with that being said, them wanting to plan out ahead, and Peter Jackson obviously being a huge part of the Hunt for Gollum, it's not impossible that the other 2 scripts that he is working on could also be related to the Lord of the Rings. By the way, if you enjoy staying up to date with all things Middle Earth, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and we will keep bringing you these updates. During a recent earnings call, Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav spoke about how the Lord of the Rings is one of their most important IPs, as well as sharing his initial thoughts on the fresh script for The Hunt for Gollum.
You know, I've said all along that one of the assets that we have at this company is that we have so much compelling storytelling IP that people know everywhere in the world, whether it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Lord of the Rings, and then we'll call those the big tentpoles, Harry Potter. And a piece of our strategy is light up strategically those big tentpoles so that we have 2 or 3 of those a year, which provide real stability. We got a great script on Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson that we're moving forward on, and we'll be giving you more detail on that.
To me, this sounds very promising. Not only that the script for The Hunt for Gollum is reportedly very good, but also that the Lord of the Rings IP is clearly a high priority for Warner Bros. This bodes well for more new Lord of the Rings content, both in the form of movies and hopefully more games. He also promises that we'll get more details on the hunt for Gollum, and that's hopefully soon. Of course, his praise for the script should be taken with a grain of salt. This is in an earnings call, and he is the CEO, so naturally he's only gonna say good things about the movie. But
I could see them doing maybe a younger Aragorn movie at some point. Maybe how him and Legolas become friends. The only issue with that is Orlando Bloom is getting older, so you'd have to maybe recast him. Or, deep fake technology and AI is getting a lot better, so maybe they could just do that. Get a younger actor and then take Orlando Bloom's face from, the original movies and, deep fake it onto him, something along those lines. You could do that. A young Aragorn movie would be pretty cool, but I think it'd also be okay because this, the Tolkien world is so massive and there's been years and years. You could do anything really in the story. So hopefully just do it right and don't pull a Ring of Power. Oof. Now, I forgot about that show. That show was rough, for sure.
still, it does sound promising. And with the first draft of the script now seemingly finished, the movie is moving into its next phase, the pre-production. In a recent interview with Silkway, Andy Serkis spoke about returning to New Zealand and beginning preparations for the film.
We've just finished the first part of the writing process, where I'm shortly going to be going back to New Zealand, end of August, beginning of September, and then there's a period of preparation, and then we start shooting middle of next year, and the film will be released in December 27.
Which is something he also confirmed at the Duke City Comic Con, where he mentioned the same timeline about pre-production now, filming in the middle of next year, and then having about a year's worth of visual effects before the movie is done. Then he was asked about when the movie is set in the timeline, and he did finally confirm that the movie is indeed set in between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
It's its own unique piece, but it sits kind of in the timeline between The Hobbit, between losing the ring to Bilbo Baggins and The Lord of the Rings. So it's that period of time, and obviously I can't go into any detail about what happens in the story, but it's a very deep dive exploration into the psychology and background of Smeagol and Gollum.
In the books, the hunt for Gollum takes place during the 17-year gap between Gandalf leaving Bag End to investigate Bilbo's ring.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
And his return to the Shire to warn Frodo.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
In the movies, this period was condensed significantly, likely to just a few months at most. Since the announcement, we've speculated that the film version might explore more than only this period, potentially reaching back even further to when Gollum first loses the ring in The Hobbit. And this is the first time, however, that they have officially confirmed that this will indeed be the timeline for the movie. We do actually have a very lengthy, in-depth Hunt for Gollum story video if you're interested, where we explore the entire timeline and all of the different storylines that this movie could contain.
Interesting. So the Hunt for Gollum is kind of like the Rogue One of the Lord of the Rings franchise. So you'd watch The Hobbits and then you would watch the Hunt for Gollum. One of the things that I've always done when I watch the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies is that the Hobbit movies feel more like, not like they're real. Like the Lord of the Rings is real, that's real life. And then the Hobbit movies feel like they are like Frodo reading about what Bilbo went through. So although like Bilbo did actually do all that stuff, Frodo was reading his story, and therefore it had more of a, I don't know, I guess you could say a more romanticized feel to it. And that's why it feels different from the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is real. This is what's happening now. And The Hobbit is what Frodo read before he started writing himself. So I guess you could, if you want to look at it from that perspective, I think it works better as a trilogy. So the idea of The Hunt for Gollum being a Rogue One-esque film, pretty cool. I think it could be great if done well, but we'll see.
Interesting story than a lot of people think. The Hobbit was famously split first into 2 movies and then 3, and there was a report going around that The Hunt for Gollum would be split into 2 movies. This was quickly debunked by writer and producer Philippa Boyens, and in this interview Andy Serkis confirms that as well.
Will be a one-part movie, not trilogy?
This one is no. This film is a single film, but there is the return to Middle Earth will hopefully be a series of films after.
He was then also asked about returning actors, because so far the only official returning actor is Andy himself as Gollum.
And who is returning? Viggo Mortensen as...
I can't tell you that.
Okay. All right.
I can't. I mean, what we do know is that there will be some returning cast for sure.
Okay.
And this is actually quite big, because so far they haven't really said anything about that. They've said that they want to have some actors back and that they've spoken to them, but at least he confirms that there will be multiple returning cast members for sure.
If you're going to make a movie that takes place in a time where all of these actors could return to show up, and you could use that as a selling point, why would you not do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to do it. They're going to try to put all these characters in if they can. I know Aragorn's definitely going to be in there. We know Gandalf's going to be in there. Legolas will definitely show up, especially if Aragorn's there. I'm sure he'll pop up. We'll see Frodo. Gimli, probably not. But Frodo and Sam, I think, are definitely shoo-ins. And why not Pippin and Merry, too? Why not? They were there, too. Let's see it. The whole gang. But bring the whole gang together. Let's check it out.
Sure, who this is hard to say, but I do feel like if they take some of the old cast back, it's kind of an all or nothing situation, as it would be very strange if they recast half of the actors and kept half of them. But we will get more into these potential actors in other interviews in a moment. Next up, we have arguably one of the most important actors to hopefully return in the movie, Viggo Mortensen.
Okay, so out of all those actors, there are like 3 who like need to be there. I should say there are 2 that need to be there. Aragorn and Gandalf. Like, those are the 2 that have to be in the movie. That they're the only ones who make sense for this story. You could throw Legolas in there as a companion to Aragorn if you want to, but I get the idea, like, if this is supposed to be right before the Fellowship of the Ring, from a certain perspective, it does kind of seem like Legolas hasn't seen Aragorn in a while when they meet back up at the council in Rivendell. So I'm okay with that. But you got to also put Frodo in there too, even if it's for a little bit. And of course, the biggest character of the entire movie, Gollum, has to be in there. 3 definite characters that will be in this movie: Gandalf, Aragorn, and Gollum. Frodo probably, Legolas probably. The rest, why not?
Recent interview, he said that he would be open to returning as he had a very good time on The Lord of the Rings, but that he isn't sure exactly how they would do it.
I'm not exactly sure what they would do. I know what the idea of it is. I'm not sure technically how they would pull it off, but knowing Peter Jackson or his team and Andy Serkis, these are very clever, inventive people, and The Lord of the Rings saw people solving all kinds of problems all the time and doing things that you thought, well, how are they going to do that? And they would find a way to do it, so who knows? I mean, I'm open to it, sure. I had a good experience working on that.
It's pretty obvious in this interview that he has spoken to Andy and the team, and it honestly wouldn't be impossible that he's already signed and is on board, but he's just trying to keep it a secret. It's just something about the way he acts in this interview that kind of makes it seem like he's hiding something, but it could just be me reading into it a little bit too much.
He's definitely going to be in there.
It's interesting to see how he could return, because I'm not sure how well it would be for an older Viggo to reprise a younger Aragorn. It would
they'll be fine. They got the AI and de-aging tech and deep fakes. They'll fix all that. But what it really is, I'm not super versed in the Silmarillion and the extra stuff, but from what I remember, the hunt for Gollum, or at least that time span, was Gandalf and Aragorn looking for him. I don't remember if Legolas helps, but I know for a fact those 2 characters are pivotal for that time period. Like I said, I could be wrong, but I'm like 90% sure that's how the story goes. So we need at least Viggo and Ian. Can we get more? I'll take them, but at least those 2 for sure.
require a lot of makeup and CGI, which maybe isn't the right way to go, but in that case, how would he be involved? And just to add to that, in case you haven't seen our previous videos, both Ian McKellen and Orlando Bloom has also mentioned that they want to return as Gandalf and Legolas in The Hunt for Gollum. So the majority of the actors who play the main characters in The Lord of the Rings want to return for the movie. The only one who said who doesn't want to return is Hugo Weaving as Elrond, which is a bit of a shame as Elrond would actually be a quite important figure during this timeline, but maybe he changes his mind or they find a way to work around that somehow.
No, he'll show back up. Hugo is one of those actors who wants to get that paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be like, I don't know, I don't really want to return. I don't really want to return. He's going to keep on turning down offers and offers until the offer is high enough, then he'll accept it. So it's either that situation or they'll just trade him out for his daughter and she can kind of be like the messenger for him in the story. So they'll probably go along that line.
Next up, we have some intriguing words from another legendary Lord of the Rings actor who recently spoke with Collider about his potential return in The Hunt for Gollum. Now, this actor is none other than John Rhys-Davies, who played Gimli in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. In the most part of the interview, they talk about his struggles in Lord of the Rings with the prosthetic makeup that he had to put on every day and how it even permanently damaged his skin. He also later says he actually turned down the return as Gimli once before when asked to return in The Hobbit for this very reason, as he didn't want to suffer through that makeup process once again. But when he was asked about The Hunt for Gollum and a potential return, he said the following: "Well, I'm known to not want to put that prosthetic on again. But out of deference to Andy, whom I love and admire, and again who has grown so much, if they invited me, oh god, could I dare put on that makeup again and lose my skin? Maybe with CGI." So he goes on to say that he is indeed open to returning as Gimli as long as it doesn't have to go through that tedious, damaging makeup process, which I think would be doable with today's technology.
Yeah, they can do that.
But would Gimli fit or be necessary for the story? He wouldn't be central to the main story
He wouldn't.
with Gollum, but around the same time, a lot of interesting stuff happened in Middle-earth, such as a messenger from Mordor is sent to Erebor to try and find the ring, which is what causes Gloin and Gimli to go to the Council of Elrond, so it wouldn't be unthinkable to see him return, even if it would just be for a smaller role.
Okay, that makes sense. There you go.
Interesting stuff happening surrounding the Lord of the Rings franchise and The Hunt for Gollum specifically. I do know that a lot of people are very skeptical to this project because of its many struggles. I think story-wise, there's no issues at all. If you've seen our Hunt for Gollum story video, you'll know that there are so many interesting storylines and events that they could portray in the movie, so finding interesting stuff to show, there's no problem at all. The problem is that a lot of it relies on characters who have been portrayed by actors that have aged a lot. So they're either going to have to recast everyone except for like Gollum, or they're going to have to use a lot of digital de-aging or CGI, which can be done very well in this day and age, but if your entire movie relies on that, I feel like it's a big risk, and that it's going to be fully compared to The Lord of the Rings, which is something that is pretty much impossible to compete with. So even though I'm very excited for this project and it could turn out fantastically, there is a lot of things that could go wrong. Luckily, they do of course have a great team with the 3 writers and producers behind The Lord of the Rings, as well as Andy directing, so if anyone's gonna succeed, it's definitely them. And before we wrap up the video, we just want to give a quick shout out to our merch store at meupdates.shop, and we recently launched a couple of new shirt designs, as well as this pint glass, coupled with of course all the previous designs we already have. Appreciate each and every one of you pick something up, and it makes us really happy when we see the comments from you guys mentioning how much you like the merch. So if you're interested, meupdates.shop. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Middle-earth. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the light of the Eldar be with you.
Alright, awesome. Definitely check them out, guys. I'll leave a link to their channel in the description below. So looking at The Hunt for Gollum, I was a bit more skeptical when I first heard it broached, the subject of it broached, the idea, or if it was leaked or whatever. When I first heard about it, I was a little skeptical, but I'm a little bit more happier seeing stuff like this. So the fact that it is just one movie is going to be a very good thing, and if it does do good and they actually put the time, they have the creative team behind it, they could make something awesome, right? They have the team, they're putting the time into it, they're figuring things out, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty good. And if it is good, then that might open the door for future Lord of the Rings stories, whether it surrounds these characters or, like I said earlier, if it goes into the Silmarillion, all that stuff. That universe is massive, so they could do anything. And like I said, right creative team behind something could make something awesome. So let's definitely see it. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for the hunt for Gollum? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn notifications for more. If you want to check out any more of my videos, they're right here on the screen. Go ahead and click those. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you next one. Peace.